Hello my friends, how are you? Helen Blunden here, or at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this time round it is a book by Ira Levin. You may have heard of Ira Levin. He was a playwright, he was an author, I think he also wrote some musicals. He was born in 1927 in the US, in New York, but died in about 2007. If you haven't heard of who Ira Levin is, you more than likely have heard of books like Rosemary's Baby, Stepford Wives, The Boys from Brazil. Yes, he wrote them all. I'm not going to do any of those today. I am going to review his book, Sliver. Sliver was written in the early 1990s. It is not a book that I knew about. I knew who Ira Levin was simply because I had read Stepford Wives before. I had read The Boys from Brazil many years ago. I'm looking forward to reading Rosemary's Baby. But I picked this one out because I thought it was actually shorter than his other books. This is going to be a bit difficult for me to review without giving away the plot. And in some ways, I tend to think that the theme isn't as creepy as it could be. But wait out.
At 113 East 38th Street,
You're making me do something I don't want to do.
the view from the outside is nothing compared to the view inside.
This book is about there's a 39-year-old book editor by the name of Kay Norris. Now Kay, she had a couple of relationships, right? They didn't work out with older men. So she decides to move into this trendy upmarket district in Manhattan, which is called the Carnegie Hill District. I'm not sure if that's real or not, so my New York friends would be able to tell me. And she moves into this apartment, which was a sliver of an apartment, a really sleek, silver, very new age type of building. And while she's there, gets to meet the different people who are living in that building. But that building is creepy. Why? Because there have been a number of unexplained deaths and suicides. But she finds out at some time in the book that everyone in every room is being watched by someone. Now, I can't tell you who that someone is because it's going to spoil the book. But effectively, as you read, you come to realize that she's being watched by someone. Every little action, everyone in the hotel is being watched by this person. And as we're reading, we come to wonder, I wonder who it could be. Now, a couple of the characters also come into the book who she meets and talks, and you kind of wonder, is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Is he watching her? But it gets revealed pretty much around the middle of the book, and I must admit, I kind of came to expect it. Now, it's really hard for me to say the plot of the book without giving away who it is, so I will try not to give away who it is. But in the middle of the book, she starts to kind of have feelings for the watcher, okay? This creepy guy who watches her. And he shows her his entire setup, all the cameras, the rooms that he uses, and both of them start getting into this, I guess, dysfunctional type of relationship where they're watching other people in this apartment building and getting to know who they are and what they're doing. Creepy, right? Yeah. And I don't understand why she gets sucked into him. Anyway, so it ends up being some kind of a love story watching other people. So there's voyeurism there. Now, I did say originally that I think the concept is a bit outdated simply because when this book was written in the 1990s, things like Big Brother, things like the internet, social media, the fact that we have lives on screen, on camera, and presented to the world, it's kind of like a no big thing anymore. But this one, the way it is presented, comes across as pretty creepy in the sense that no one knows that they're being watched because there's cameras in their light fittings in their homes, and this one person seems to know everything about them. And so the story is these unexplained deaths, these suicides were really not unexplained deaths and suicides. They actually turned out to be people who kind of cottoned on to the fact that they were being watched. That's the premise of the story. I don't want to give away too much because I think this will be interesting enough for people who would want to read this. Now, I have... Did you hear that? My husband sneezed. So this is, I guess, the third Ira Levin book that I've read, but I must admit it is not one of his best. I did enjoy Boys from Brazil, I did enjoy The Stepford Wives, but this one I found really difficult to read simply because there were no pronouns. He seemed to kind of chop his sentences quite short, just pronouns, missing the I's and you and he and she. He just went straight into the verb, and so a lot of it chopped and changed. And in the beginning of the book, it was really difficult to make sense as to who was watching whom. So the sentence structure was such that it was coming from the perspective of the watcher, and then it would change to come from the perspective of who he was watching. And so at times I got quite confused, and I had to stop myself reading and go back and reread it just to get into the gist of the flow of the way he wrote. Would I recommend this book? Sure. Any book from Ira Levin would be a good one to read. I'd be interested in your thoughts as to whether you have read this book and whether you feel as if this book was on par with his other books. Do you feel that the theme was creepy, especially by standards of today? And if you read this book, what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you get a chance to read any of these books. They're brilliant if you want a bit of a scare. Not a scare as in scary horror, but a bit of a creepiness about it. Anyway, that is it for now. Let me know what you think. Bye-bye.